Always a pleasure to talk to him when we have him on, Governor Asa Hutchinson. Good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Good to be with you.
A lot to cover today. Legislative session over. I want to get your thoughts on the session overall, the positives and things that lawmakers worked on there, including your priorities, and anything that you would have liked to see that might have happened differently.
Well, it was a great session. If you look at a sports analogy, they always debate in basketball or football who's the greatest of all time. I think it'd be a fun debate as to whether this was the GOAT session, the greatest of all time. And I say that just because the General Assembly not only accomplished one big item, but multiple very big items that would have consumed most legislative sessions. And this includes a new highway bill so we can fund our highways better. It includes tax cuts, raising teacher pay, which we did $4,000 over the next 4 years, and it includes transformation of state government, which hasn't been done in this context or this scope in 50 years. So it was amazing what they accomplished. Those are just the four big items, and then you add to it things like juvenile justice reform, providing more homestead tax relief for our property owners in Arkansas, and then UAMS. We've always wanted a National Cancer Institute designation for them, and we approved that legislation and set aside $10 million. So it was really a historic session, and I challenge the historians to point us in history as to something that is accomplished as much as this session did for the people of Arkansas.
Governor Asa Hutchinson on News Radio 102.9 KRN. Governor, the highway funding, some people didn't like the idea of having to pay more tax to improve highways, but it was something that, at least the tax side of it, that hadn't been increased in years, and highway funding, we know that it needed to be done. Get your take on what happened there.
Well, the legislature supported a 3-cent increase in the fuel tax. This would be for passenger automobiles. That was the primary funding part of it. The truckers will be paying a little bit more than that, but for the average motorist, this is 3 cents, and that is what everyone indicated is about as minimal as we can have for a good road program, but at the same time not overburden our motorists. Everybody in Arkansas driving a vehicle understands we have to invest in our infrastructure, whether it's safe bridges or whether it's just trying to reduce those bumpy roads that hurts our vehicles as we go to work. We're a vehicle-laden state. In other words, we drive to work, and we have to have good roads, and this is just part of it.
I don't think a lot of people realize how many freeway miles we have in the state of Arkansas, too. We rank up there near the top around the country.
We do. We have a lot of interstate miles, and they're busy interstate miles, but it's a potential area of growth for us because it is interstate access that gives us the opportunity to recruit industry. So we do have a lot of interstate miles, and that's an advantage to us in some ways, but at the same time it takes a lot to maintain those. But it's also our farm-to-market roads. I mean, if you're looking at our folks trying to get their commodities to the market in the Delta or any place in South Arkansas, those roads are really in disrepair. They're dangerous to the farmers that are riding on those, and that's part of the needs in our state as well.
Kevin Miller, along with Governor Asa Hutchinson on News Radio 102.9 KRN. One of the big priorities you walked into this legislative session with was trying to streamline state agencies and bring it down to a more manageable number. Over the years and decades, this number had really kind of stretched out. And, I talked to Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin about this, and I think that you would agree. He said, we ought to be able to do this around one big table, not in a big room with all these people, but to get things done, it needs to be something that's more contained. How is this going to work? And you've mentioned, too, that you're going to borrow perhaps from your experience in Homeland Security to make this transformation happen. How's this transformation going to work, and what's it going to do to help not only Arkansas, but maybe even save some taxpayer money in the process?
Well, first of all, the commitment is that we're going to do this reorganization of state government, really transform it from 42 departments that report directly to me down to 15. That gives me better management control. It allows us to provide better services to the taxpayer, but also create efficiency. And we're going to do this without adding new personnel and adding new costs. So it's not putting another layer on the board. This is something that is so much needed. It hasn't been done in 50 years, as I indicated. And while we pass the legislation, the big effort is now. It's not just pass the legislation and it's done. We have to reorganize the departments. I've got a transition team of 15 state employees that are starting to work on that over the next 30 days. I'll be looking at who's going to lead these different cabinets, and a lot of work ahead just to make this effective and lasting and to save the money that's expected from this reorganization.
Governor Asa Hutchinson on News Radio 102.9 KRN. A couple of ideas came up late in the session, and I want to get your take on that. First of all, it was the DACA program, in-state tuition, and people that can obtain nursing licenses, and also to the whole idea of sanctuary cities. And why was that legislation needed? There's not any sanctuary cities in Arkansas.
Well, first of all, on the DACA, those are those young children that came over to America at a very young age, and they've gone through our schools, and the federal government gave them a legal status, and once they have a legal status, then it's appropriate that they have access to our schools in Arkansas, to our nursing licensing program. And so we passed legislation that would give those with that legal status here in the United States in-state tuition, but also the ability to get a nursing license. We need these people. This is the right thing to do from a humanitarian and compassionate standpoint. In terms of the sanctuary cities, I come from Homeland Security. I was part of immigration enforcement, and we want to be a welcoming state, but at the same time, we want to cooperate with federal authorities. And this legislation just says cities and law enforcement should cooperate with federal immigration officials, and that there shouldn't be any prohibition against that. That's been the history. That's what we do in Arkansas. And so while we don't have any sanctuary cities, the legislation tries to send a message that we should not have any.
Governor Asa Hutchinson, always a pleasure to talk to you. And like I said, a lot of territory to cover this morning, and I appreciate you helping out with that. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you. Thank you, Kevin.